So, when it comes to the Reform Party, they've had an interesting couple of months. Because you must admit, this time last year they were doing very strong. But if we fast forward to the modern day, nobody knows exactly where they stand. Which brings me on to these series of tweets which I'm going to show you today. Mostly from Dan Wootton and Zia Yusef, as well as Dan Wootton throwing a little bit of shade on Darren Grimes as well. Because it's all to do with the Rupert Lowe and the Zia Yusef situation. And exactly to do with who knew what when. And I won't read the whole thing out, right? But Zia says, Dan, at some point just making stuff up every day must get boring. And he says that we've built something special at Reform. And he says so you can huff and puff. Like, I gotta tell you, I was cracking up over that. Like, I'm not a big Zia fan, you know, when it comes to people called Mohammed. But the fact that he said that he can huff and puff, I'm still creasing at that one. Because you know why that's funny. You know why. I don't need to, because, you know, he's like that. And Dan Wootton comes back saying, you're incredibly thin-skinned for a man who wants to lead a party into government. And he said, in all fairness to Dan Wootton, he says, treating someone like me who voted for Reform UK and features your allies most days is utterly insane. And I got to tell you, Dan Wootton, to his credibility, he does actually have quite a varied group of people on his show. You know, he's got pro-reform, he's got anti-reform. I was surprised to see Ben Habib on there the other day. So I've got plenty to say about Dan Wootton, which we'll get onto in a moment. But like I said, to Dan Wootton's credit, he does have, like, pretty much every side of the spectrum on his show. No pun intended. And then Dan Wootton goes on to say, unlike many others who claim to be independent, I am not trying to be a reform candidate. And who Dan Wootton's talking about, right, when he says, I'm not trying to claim to be independent? He's talking about Darren Grimes. You can see here in his bio, it says independent broadcaster. Whilst the man's wearing, like, what is that? A high-vis reform jacket? Independent? High-vis reform jacket? Independent? You see where I'm going with this? Then we've got this here, like, there's no two ways about it. Dan Wootton is specifically talking about Darren Grimes on this one. Because you can see here, it says independent media from the no-nonsense north. But whilst he's independent, he's got, like, you know how you have to do it in, like, election adverts? Because it says promoted by Ian Hurst, who's a reform guy. And he's got this in his bio. And I'm going to tell you guys, the day that I have someone else's election campaign information in my bio, that is the day that I stop becoming independent. Do you know what I mean? You can't play it both ways, regardless of what your opinions are on Darren Grimes. He might be your absolute favourite, but I don't know if he can call himself independent. And he says that he's always ready to continue the conversation and chat with you for our viewers, who are what really matters. And like I said, I would have to side with Dan Wootton on this one. Not so much Zia Yusef, although to be fair, Zia Yusef, he's probably a bigger man than me. He didn't pull this one out the bag. If I was Zia, I'd have just responded with a screenshot of this. I hate to say it, but it's like the fourth accusation, and it's at the High Court. So the fact that Zia Yusef didn't respond with this, I don't know, maybe he's taken the higher ground. But I will say, not one person has mentioned this as well. None of the gossip crew on YouTube, nobody from anywhere. Like, it's just been ignored. I lost a lot of faith. Just seeing this just go completely ignored. I lost a lot of faith that day. But as Dan Wootton says, he says, I will continue to support reform and give you a fair crack of the whip. In all fairness, like I said, he has quite a few different perspectives on his show. But then again, he's talking bad about reform, so, you know, Zia's got to stand up for the party. And that, to be honest with you guys, that's what true independence is. I can come on it, I just criticise them all. I've got no allegiance to nothing. I say what I want, when I want, about who I want. And I definitely don't have to contact Ian Hurst and get his permission beforehand. And if you enjoyed this Daily Clown World video, then I would highly recommend to check out this one, where it looks like Labour are going to ban meat.
This country has gone crazy.